Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Betting Pros NFL Week 14 Sunday morning live stream brought to you by BetMGM, where you can get a risk-free bet of up to $1,000 when you use the highly original promo code BettingPros with your first deposit. He's Fitz. I'm Freedman, Pat Fitzmaurice, and Matthew Freedman here to highlight our favorite NFL bets for the weekend. At the end of the show, we will take a couple of questions. If there are other games you want us to touch on, best bets, anything like that, put them in the comment section, and we can touch on them at the end of the show. All right, Fitz. Last week was one of the best sports betting weeks I've ever had, so I'm just waiting for regression to strike. It gave me a pretty good first punch in the face on Thursday Night Football with the Rams coming back to win and cover against the Raiders. I feel decent about the bets I'm on this week, but at this time of the year, December, Jerry, at this time of the year, it's hard to know. How do you feel about this week?
I feel like you should probably be doing the show solo since you're so hot, and last week was not for me. But we talked about this, man. Why did I not see the possibility of an epic Raiders collapse on Thursday night and put down a nice fat little Rams? But no, I had to go the other way and take the Raiders. So, trying to dig out of a hole right from the start. But let's get to it.
Yeah. All right, let's get into it. And by the way, Fitz, you are still dealing with some significant lag, so we'll fight through it. It's like a player on the field playing through a hamstring injury. We'll get through it. Okay, the first game here that I'm seeing, Bengals 5.5 is what you are on, hosting the Browns. This got up to 6. It's now 5.5 across the market. Fitz, talk about what you like in this game.
Yeah, so the Bengals have won 4 straight, and the last 2 were against really good teams, the Titans and the Chiefs. They won 4 straight at home, and they've covered in those consecutive home wins. And that, includes some really impressive last week against the Chiefs. Hard-fought, close victory. They beat by 12 points at home earlier this year. So there's also a little bit of a revenge narrative here for the Bengals after sort of getting in Browns Halloween night, week 8, 32-13 loss in Cleveland. They didn't have Jamar Chase in that game, and they were just kind of having a hard time getting the offense going. That has not been a problem for them at all lately. And meanwhile, you've got a Browns offense that, let's face it, they had to make this change to Deshaun Watson, of course, and his ceiling is higher than Jacoby Brissett's about that. But I think in the short term, it's a downgrade for them at quarterback. And, we saw a thick layer of rust for Deshaun Watson. 12 of 22, I believe, on his passing last week. And that was target of under. So struggling to complete even the shorter stuff. I think he's going to struggle for another week or two. I like this one pretty easily.
Okay, so you are on the Bengals there at -5, 5.5. I am on the Bills, and it feels disgusting to be on a big favorite, but I'm on the Bills -10 hosting the Jets. By the way, speaking of the Bills, we're giving away a free signed Isaiah McKenzie Buffalo Bills mini helmet from Pristine Auction. There we go. Boom. There's the overlay. From Pristine Auction. If you want a chance to win it, subscribe to the Betting Pros YouTube channel right now. Comment below on the video. We will announce the winner on the channel in a future episode, so turn on those notifications. All right, when the Jets hosted the Bills in Week 9, the Bills were -10.5. They lost that game, and the Jets are better with Mike White at quarterback than Zach Wilson. But the Bills are now at home where they have a significant home field advantage, and this number is 10. I think it should be a little bit higher than this. It kind of doesn't add up. The Bills are playing with 3 extra days of rest. The Jets are on 3 of 4 away. And so, it's not just like a typical away game for them. They've had to string a number of away games together recently. And if you look at the Massey Peabody power ratings, the Bills have a 7.91 rating. The Jets are -2. These teams on a neutral field are probably separated by 10 points. And I think this number isn't taking into account the home field advantage and the rest that the Bills have. On top of that, Mike White, yes, he is better than Zach Wilson. That there's still like a wide range, between being better than Zach Wilson and being good. And I don't know if Mike White actually is good. Like, he's probably better than the typical third string quarterback. That doesn't mean he's a starter caliber type of player. And when we saw him play the Bills last year, it was like a Nathan Peterman-esque type of performance. 4 interceptions in that game, 1.6 adjusted yards per attempt. I mean, just absolute train wreck. So I think I have this projected at 11. Anything more than 10, or anything less than 10 or less, I think there's value in that number. So I will be, kind of doing the fishy thing of just betting on the better team as a massive favorite at home with extra rest, but I'm going to do it because I do see some value in this number. All right, Fitz, the next game here. We are on opposite sides of this game, which I don't know. I feel disgusting on this. We're talking about the Chiefs at the Broncos. And it's almost as if the market isn't quite sure where to put this. This number is 9.5 at BetMGM. Again, where you can get that risk-free bet of up to $1,000 with the promo code BettingPros with their first deposit. 9.5 at BetMGM, 8.5 at DraftKings, 8.5 at FanDuel, 9 at PointsBet. So, obviously grab this number at the book where you get the best edge for the side that you're betting. If you're betting this, maybe you don't want to bet it because, like we are conflicted on it. Fitz, you like the Chiefs here, which is the much more sensical side to be taking in this bet, the much less disgusting side to take. What are you seeing here with the Chiefs on the road at the Broncos?
Well, I don't know, Freedman. Last few times we have been opposed on these bets. They haven't gone especially well for me. So, take that as a warning, everyone watching this show. But we know the Chiefs have won 13 straight against the Broncos. They have not lost to the Broncos in the Patrick Mahomes era. And in fact, the Broncos last win against the Chiefs, September 17th, 2015. I think probably for all of us, our lives were a lot different in 2015. Peyton Manning was quarterbacking Denver that year. Jamal Charles ran for over 100 yards in that game. Virgil Green had a touchdown catch. We are talking about another era entirely. So yes, the Chiefs have had their way with the Broncos of late. And as good as the Broncos defense is, I mean, the Chiefs offense is pretty hard to stop. They're averaging a league high 29.2 points per game. The Broncos are averaging 13.8. I mean, they just can't score. Like I have a hard time picking the Broncos against an offense this powerful because how can they keep up? I do hate taking a road favorite this heavy. I thought I saw something like road favorites of 4.5 or more points this year, or like 7-21 or something like that, 25% winning percentage. So it's not the kind of wager I like to make, but as much as this seems like a sucker play, I just don't see enough on offense from the Broncos to be able to hang with an offense as good as the Chiefs.
Yeah. So I think this is going to be a low scoring game. More on that later. God, what a tease. Strong tease there. But, with that in mind, with it being a lower scoring game, 9.5 is a pretty sizable head start for the Raiders, or not for the Raiders, for the Broncos. And I don't disagree with anything that you said. I mean, I do expect the Broncos to lose this game. They are, I think, clearly the inferior team in this spot. I don't expect them to put up a lot of points, but they don't need to put up a lot of points in a low scoring game to get the cover at 9.5 points. And Patrick Mahomes, 11-16-1 against the spread for his career as a favorite of more than 7 points. Russell Wilson is not the Russell Wilson we've seen in previous years, but still I'm going to trot out this trend because it backs up my argument. Russell Wilson, 5-0 against the spread in his career as an underdog of more than 7 points. And, again, betting on the Broncos, it's disgusting in this spot, but they are a divisional dog at home. They have a significant home field advantage because of the elevation. And I just like that general scenario. Russell Wilson this year still 4-2 against the spread as an underdog. And we have a great defense going against a great offense. I don't think the Broncos are going to neutralize the Chiefs by any means, but I think they could potentially slow down the offense. Yeah, drop back EPA for the Chiefs. They're number one in the league. Top three in drop back success rate, pass DVOA. But the Broncos defense is right there, top three in those same metrics. And then you look at the other side of the ball. Yeah, the Broncos offense is terrible, but the Chiefs defense is not that good. So it's like, can they find the 9.5 points to work with in there? I don't know. I'm betting on it. I have it projected at 7.25. So I think, anything more than 7 is just too much for the Broncos at home. This is one of those, like, plug your nose. I'm not going to be watching any of this game. I'm not going to be looking at this game on my phone as it's happening. I don't want to have anything to do with it. At the end of the day, I just want to look and see if I won or lost this bet. Because if I were tracking this in real time, I'm sure it would be pretty painful. All right, Fitz, one game that you and I are on the same side of. Buccaneers on the road with the 49ers, 3.5 plus 3.5 is the number. Talk to me about this.
I mean, it does feel like we're going against some trends here, Freedman. The 49ers are 4-1 in their last 5 games against the spread, and they're 8-2 against the spread in their last 10 home games. Meanwhile, the Bucs are 3-8-1 against the spread this year, the worst mark in the NFL, I believe. But don't you feel like in a season where maybe the Bucs have been getting too much credit with point spreads all year long, this one is finally showing maybe some disrespect to the Buccaneers? Like the lines have finally caught up to this team. And I think we're seeing that with this number. There's some key injuries for the Bucs. They're not going to have Antoine Winfield Jr., Tristan Wirfs, maybe not Akeem Hicks, but man, the quarterback thing. And I hate to overplay the quarterback narrative here, but you've got the Tom Brady homecoming for one. Only the third or fourth time he's ever played, or no, the second time he's played in San Francisco in his career. As limited as Brady has been in some ways this year, we're seeing the Tom Brady who can no longer pick apart a defense. He's just quick to dump off. But he still doesn't make that many mistakes. I still think he gives the Buccaneers an enormous quarterback advantage. And don't you think Todd Bowles is going to have some stuff dialed up for Brock Purdy in this game? We didn't see that much of a diminished effect on the offense last week, immediately after they made the forced switch with the Garoppolo injury to Brock Purdy. But boy, this week, I think we're going to see the limitations of having Brock Purdy as your quarterback. I think that's going to come home to roost for the 49ers this week. So, boy, getting more than a field goal here, I got to take those points.
Yeah, and we have seen recent reports that edge Nick Bosa is expected to play in this game. Obviously a lot of respect for him as a player, but even with the adjustment of him playing, I have this at 2.5. And so I agree at 3.5. I think there's value. And I think it is as simple as, look, Tom Brady, going against Brock Purdy, like the GOAT going against the rookie, Mr. Irrelevant, and Tom Brady still has a pretty decent defense there with him. So I will be taking the points because I think the market might be underestimating the impact of Jimmy Garoppolo and how good within that particular offense, he actually has been over the past half decade. We should assume that Jimmy Garoppolo can run that system quite a bit better than the guy who is a third string, last pick of the draft type of player. So I'm with you there. All right, Seahawks. I'm on the Seahawks here, -3.5, hosting the Panthers. I gotta say, there's a decent chance I'm just wrong on this. I bet this at 6.5 in the look ahead market because I was very convinced, or not convinced, but I thought there was a better chance this would get to 7 than 3. And boy, was I wrong on that. By the way, I put it in here we go. The plug is coming. I put it in the BettingPros app whenever I bet it, where you can sync up with sportsbooks, get free betting advice and picks, and track different experts, line movement, and your own bets. And you can set alerts. We monitor all the major sportsbooks. So when one of them has a line move that hits a threshold you set, you get an alert. So download the app today in the Apple or the Google Play Store. All right. There's a decent chance I'm wrong on this because I bet this at 6.5 and the market has strongly moved against me. But I don't know. I think the market is wrong. At Lumen Field, the Seahawks have, I think, a significant home field advantage, one of the best in the league. And the Panthers are coming off of a bye, so that, kind of counterweighs a little bit the home field advantage. But I don't think the bye, I haven't actually done research on this. So this is just a theory. But for a team that isn't competing for a playoff spot, I don't think the bye means nearly as much late in the season as it actually does for a team that needs the bye in order to think about what it can change within its system to make a playoff push. And when you factor in the home field advantage for the Seahawks, rest advantage for the Panthers, this line is saying that the Seahawks are about 1 to 2 points better than the Panthers. And I think that is just wrong on the face of it, considering that Geno Smith is at this point a real life top 10 quarterback. And the other quarterback in this game is Sam Darnold, who probably wouldn't even be starting if Matt Corral hadn't injured his foot at the beginning of the year. Like Sam Darnold maybe wouldn't even be on a team right now if not for the Matt Corral injury. So, I can't look at this game and say, oh yes, these two teams are roughly in the same tier. They are not at all in the same tier. So that's the analysis. Geno Smith versus Sam Darnold and the Seahawks at home. Okay, let's get to the totals here. Fitz, Vikings, Lions, over 51.5. You are going with the chalk.
I am going with the chalk. I mean, this does feel like it's going to be a shootout. There have been at least 53 points scored in 3 of Detroit's last 4 games and 4 of their last 6. When these teams played earlier in week 3, there were 52 points produced when the Vikings beat the Lions 28-24, which was the first of 7 straight games, 1 score for the Vikings. And the Vikings have given up the most passing yards per play. They're giving up 7.6 yards per passing play. And the Lions are giving up 7.3. They've got the 3rd worst mark in that regard. So I think these teams are going to move the ball up and down the field today. And I think we see this go over, 51.5. Is that where we're at this morning?
Yeah, 51.5. And I'm with you. I haven't bet it, but if I were to bet this, that's the side I would be on. I have this projected at 52.1. Okay. This is the typical bet that I will make almost every week for the rest of the season, or have made every week up to this point. The under in the Broncos game. Broncos Chiefs under 44. I like the big underdog in this game, which tends to correlate with the under. And if you've been watching the show this year, I'm just all about them Broncos unders. They're 11-1, an unfathomable 11-1 to the under this year. Great defense, terrible offense. It's just a perfect combination for a team to smoke the under every time they are playing. And so I know it's kind of hard to take an under in a Chiefs game, but the Chiefs haven't had like that killer instinct of like piling on points whenever they've had the opportunity to do it. Like they've just kind of they've been okay with just, kind of having an offense that does well enough to win games without having this like 2007 Patriots mindset of just scoring as many points as possible. So I'm taking the under here, under 44 in the Broncos Chiefs game. Fitz, the next game, Browns Bengals over 46. You and I are on the same side of this. Make the case for it.
Yeah, it's been an over rivalry as of late. In the last 10 meetings between these two teams, we've only seen 1 under. We've seen 7 of the last 10 go over and 2 pushes. So the Bengals have Joe Mixon back this week. They got Jamar Chase back last week. And really the Browns have been an over team lately. The last 8 Browns games have produced an average of 48.8 points. For that matter, the Bengals, we've been seeing a lot of scoring in their games too. Their last 8 games have produced an average of 50.8 points. So, even though we did see Watson look kind of rusty last week, we know the Browns can run the ball effectively. I think Watson, could be considerably better than he was last week. For kind of a subdued total in a game like this, 46.5 doesn't seem like a lot. I like the over. I think this plays closer to 50 today.
Mm-hmm. All right. Another game here that you are on the over. Jaguars, Titans, 41. Talk to me about this number here.
Yeah, so some key injuries for the Titans on defense with edge rusher Denico Autry, cornerback Christian Fulton, and those guys are out. And Jeffrey Simmons, I believe, is questionable for this one. That would be a big loss if he couldn't play. The Jaguars defense, 29th in DVOA. Titans pass defense is 22nd in DVOA. They've allowed the second most passing yards in the league this year and the fourth most touchdown passes, 22. So I think there's going to be some movement here, even though the Titans have been kind of an under team this year. There have been at least 44 scored in 2 of their last 3. And last 7 Jaguars games have produced an average of 48.4 points. There have been 44 more in 4 straight Jaguars games. So I think this one plays over.
All right. Yeah. I mean, that Titans defense is missing. Like, if you look at what their week 1 starting lineup would have been for the defense, they're like missing half of those guys. So very decimated on the defense. I'm looking at the under of 45 in Eagles Giants. It's an under spot. 2 teams that like to run the ball. The Giants could be especially vulnerable in run defense without defensive tackle Leonard Williams, who is doubtful, but almost certain not to be playing in this game. And if Saquon is out, there are reports that it's 50-50 as to whether he plays. If he's out, I think it will be significantly harder for them to sustain offense. And just kind of big picture divisional matchup outdoors in December. In that spot, the under is historically 310, 247, and 16. And even better than that if you look at the cold weather divisions, which that certainly qualifies for the NFC East. So I'm expecting something of like an old school slugfest between these 2 teams. So under 45, I think there is some value there. All right, Fitz. Let's get to the money line underdog parlay. And I got to say, I'm looking at this at Caesars. You were taking the Jets. So going against my Bills, totally fine. Not my Bills as in my fandom, but the bet that I'm making. So Jets plus 400 at Caesars. And I'm taking Vikings plus 118. You put that together, looking at our parlay calculator, plus 990 are the odds there. And also that parlay calculator, just one of the tools in our growing suite of resources on BettingPros. Fitz, make the case for Jets plus 400.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can certainly make a better case for the Vikings winning outright. Like, I'm not saying I think the odds are great that the Jets pull this out, but I do like the pot odds when you're getting plus 360 here. We saw them win the earlier meeting 20-17, and I don't want to read too much into that, but maybe this turns out to be one of those things where the Jets just have the Bills number. And granted, Mike White did play terribly when he went against the Bills last year, but I think we can agree that Mike White gives this offense more of a chance to be functional than Zach Wilson did. And, I like the way they operate with Mike White in there, like sort of, they get everyone involved in the passing game. They dump off to the backs. They kind of just do whatever they have to do to advance the ball. And, I like the pot odds at plus 360. I can't make a compelling case that they are going to flat out win this game. But yeah, I think, they're going to win 2 out of 3 or 1 out of 3, 1 out of 3.5 games against the Bills. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, and at Caesars a plus 400, they don't need to win all that often in order for this to, and you can see the path, right? You can see the path. They have a good defense. They have a better offense than they did when they beat the Bills a month ago. So you can see it. Vikings plus 118 at Caesars here. I bet the Lions at plus 3 on the look ahead because I had this projected at close to a pick'em. I still have this, close to a pick'em. A slight lean towards the Vikings. A lot of the advanced analytics, DVOA, EPA point towards the Lions, but a couple of things put me on the Vikings at this number. I think they have the better in-game decision maker in Kevin O'Connell, and rightly or wrongly, signal or noise, they have won games. And I don't have a, just wins baby factor in my model, but at some point, you need to acknowledge when a team consistently does stuff that goes beyond the scope of what you consider. And mid-December kind of feels like the time to do it. So, Vikings as I don't know, I would say at a minimum, at worst, these teams are in the same tier, in my opinion, and the Vikings might be in a tier above the Lions. So I know the market has gone against this, and again, I was on the Lions at +3 in the look ahead market. I think this should be a pick 'em, but getting plus odds here on the Vikings, I will take it. All right, let's see if there are any questions if people had any games that they wanted us to cover. Fitz, did you see any? Did you see any in there?
I did not. There's been some chatter about the Steelers Ravens game. Are you doing anything with that one?
No, let me see where I have that projected. Like Huntley, I think is a intriguing fantasy quarterback because he does have a kind of Lamar similar skill set. Obviously not like Lamar caliber, but similar. And the fact that he is a similar type of quarterback means that they don't have to change the offense. But even though like I think Huntley is fine as a fantasy quarterback, I think there is still a significant difference between those two in terms of value against the spread. And so I'm looking at this now. I do have this projected exactly Pittsburgh -1.5. And so given the number in the market, like I'm staying away.
Yeah, I mean, Huntley did have some utility in fantasy football last year, but the reality was in 4 starts, he threw 4 interceptions and took 15 sacks. Like there is a
Yeah.
definite downgrade with him. And I think against one of his starts last year was against the Steelers, and I believe he had no touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and like 5 sacks in that game. So, yeah. So Cheese Staked is asking about Browns +3.5.
Browns +3.5. Let me see. Is that number?
Wait. No. Yeah, 3.5. It's what, 5.5?
It's
right?
like 5.5.
Yeah, we did talk about that. Yeah, I like the Bengals.
Let me see. Someone said Cincinnati just shifted from 5.5 to 4. Yeah, I mean the market. Let me see here. Let me look at the odds page. The market has been moving. Oh, yeah, Fitz. This is now 3.5 at FanDuel. It's 3.5 at FanDuel, 4.5 at BetMGM and DraftKings. It looks like maybe still 5.5 at PointsBet, but that might be an old line. So like this was 6, and earlier this morning it was 5. Like it's consistently been moving back towards the Browns.
Wow.
I think this is giving Deshaun Watson a little too much credit.
Or did Joe Burrow fall down a flight of stairs this morning and we haven't heard about it yet? I mean, like that's yeah. I'm
not seeing any news
move at all.
I'm not seeing any news on why this would be moving. I think this is just kind of like quote unquote sharp action, like big money coming in on the Browns here. And no, I'm not on it.
All right. So 2 other questions. Rick Perez wonders about our thoughts on the Texans covering, and Scott Lewis on whether the Jags are a live money line pick.
Okay, so to talk about the Texans first, I have this projected exactly at 17. So if this number is 17.5, then in theory, there's some value there, but I'm not going to be betting on the Texans. Especially because like there's a chance that I'm not incorporating enough the absence of the 2 starting wide receivers. Like I feel like I'm accounting for that, but I maybe haven't discounted them enough. So, 17, in theory, some value, but I'm not betting it. Fitz, do you have any thoughts on the Jags as money line underdogs? I mean, I think they're live. It's not like a massive difference there between those 2 teams.
My one issue is that, like we've talked about this and the immense respect I have for Mike Vrabel. Like, do they lay 2 eggs in a row? I just like, this does not seem like the kind of team that as many challenges as they have with personnel right now, and especially with some of the injuries. I just don't see them having 2 clunkers in a row, especially when they're coming home off a pretty bad performance against the Eagles. Like, I'm sure they're going to be breathing fire in this one. So I kind of think they win this one. And I actually took them to cover earlier in the week.
All right.
Let's hit one more. I just want to answer Colby real quick with his player prop question about Garrett Wilson. He was one of my picks in my player props article this week at 61.5, which is where he was on Thursday afternoon. You said Colby mentioned that it's gone up to 64.5. And what is the threshold where I might be out on Garrett Wilson? I'd take it up to maybe 65.5, 66.5. Like I like him a lot. I mean, I think passing volume is going to be there. We've seen the Jets really throw it around with Joe Flacco or Mike White at quarterback, i.e. not Zach Wilson. They're averaging like, 50 pass attempts a game with someone other than Zach Wilson at quarterback. So, and like Garrett Wilson is just really good. Like this guy's an ascendant superstar. So, anything under about 66.5, I think I'm still in.
Yeah, I mentioned this in my favorites article, but Wilson has dramatic splits this year based on who the quarterback is. So when Zach Wilson is not the quarterback, Wilson has 17.3 fantasy points per game on 11.4 targets per game. That is like an unreal usage number there. When Zach Wilson has been the quarterback, just 6.5 fantasy points per game. And against the Bills in week 9, even with Zach Wilson, Garrett Wilson had 92 yards receiving on 9 targets. And the Bills are number 27 defensive pass DVOA against number 1 wide receivers. Now, that number would probably change with Tre'Davious White back, but White isn't like his full White self just yet. Like he's still kind of working his way back into it. So yeah, I think there's some value there. And I'm going to be posting my prop plays probably within an hour or so in the BettingPros Discord. So keep an eye out for that. All right, Fitz, let's do the quick recap here. I'm on the Bills at -10. You are on the Bengals at -5. That line is shifting, -3.5 if you can get it. Hopefully you didn't bet it right away when we were talking about it and you can get some better value there. Fitz and I are on opposite sides of the Broncos-Chiefs game. I disgustingly like the Broncos at +9.5. Fitz likes the Chiefs at -8.5, -8.5. I'm on the Seahawks at -3.5. Fitz likes the Buccaneers, Tom Brady going home in San Francisco at +3.5. For the totals, Broncos, Chiefs, I'm on under 44. Fitz likes the over 51.5 and Vikings, Lions. Browns and Bengals over 46. Fitz and I are on the same side there. Eagles, Giants, I'm on the under 45. Jags, Titans, Fitz likes the over 41. And then on the money line underdog parlay for +990 combined, Fitz likes the Jets at +400. I like the Vikings at +118 on Caesars. Fitz, what are you doing for the people for the rest of your Sunday?
About 20 minutes from now, I will be doing the Twitter takeover of the Fantasy Pros account for anyone with fantasy questions in week 14, last week of the fantasy regular season in most leagues. So a very important one for a lot of people.
Indeed. All right. I will be updating rankings all the way to kickoff, updating our Betting Pros spread and total projections. And then this evening, finalizing the first round of our week 15 Betting Pros game projections. And I've already placed some look ahead bets in the Betting Pros app. Going to be placing more look ahead bets as we get closer to kickoff. All right, that is going to do it for the NFL Week 14 Betting Pros live stream. If you like the show, do us a solid, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We really appreciate everyone interacting, asking questions. It's a really fun show to do, and a big part of that is because of all of you. So thank you for tuning in. Good luck, and see you next episode. And now I need to, here we go, get to the end page. Boom.